Welcome to another episode of the Sabastian Show. This week, I interviewed Sean Whalen, Lions, Not Sheep. It's an epic episode. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Check it out. I appreciate you jumping on, and I'll just jump right into it, though. Give me a frame. Tell me about how you grew up. What was your frame of reference growing up? How did you see the world? Did you grow up with two parents, one parent?
I grew up with an alcoholic father. I grew up with two parents that worked, middle class America. Played baseball, did my deal. Dad woke up before the sun came up, came home after the sun went down. Drank basically all the time. Was a feisty little kid, didn't do well in school, hated school, got terrible grades, always got in trouble for getting terrible grades. Didn't like to sit still. I was always kind of a little hustler, always like running a little racket. And I'd go to my neighbors and say, hey, let me mow your grass for $5. They'd say, okay, great. And I'd pay my friends $2 to mow the grass, and I'd keep $3. And we all had money when the ice cream man rolled around. You know what I'm saying? So but yeah, I mean, my parents split up when I was an early teenager and raised without my dad. So that my teenage years were pretty rebellious, pretty rambunctious, and got in a lot of trouble, pushed the envelope. I kind of wanted to get in trouble. I was just an angry little kid. And took me quite a while to kind of figure some of that stuff out. But yeah, that's 20 years in about 20 seconds.
Yeah. So dad was an alcoholic. You went through a divorce. Do you have any siblings?
Younger brother.
So you're the oldest.
Yeah.
So what was the impact of dad leaving? Were you like relieved that it like, was it like?
It was hectic, man. I mean, my dad had some serious issues on his own. I mean, he was really raised in a broken home, and he and I didn't have a good relationship. You know, he would go weeks at a time without talking to me, you know, would literally like not talk to me for 2 weeks, and would like be sitting in the same room and tell my mom to tell me something. I mean, he was he had a lot of issues, you know. Fast forward, and now I look at the relationship and the dynamic, and I understand, you know, that he had many of his own demons that he had never addressed. You know, but my mom always said the same thing, like if it ever got to a certain point, that then we would leave. And one day it got to a point, me and my dad got into a fight, and that was it. We left and never looked back.
How old were you?
I was in my early teens. I don't remember. I was probably 12,
14?
13 years old, somewhere around there.
Yep. Where did you grow up?
Washington, D.C., just in the burbs of Washington, D.C.
No way.
Yeah. In Northern Virginia.
I'm pretty good at this shit. I never would have guessed that. Your vibe is like Midwest country, like.
Oh no, that's new, man. I grew up in the city. The closest I ever came to animals was like when the petting zoo came to the JCPenney parking lot. You know what I'm saying? So now I got a 500-acre ranch, and you know, I got animals and things, and playing around in cow shit and running around on my ranch, and horses and all that other stuff. So that's a new thing.
What's your relationship with your father now?
I haven't spoken to him in probably 9 years. I message him, I email him probably every other month, just on updates with the kids. He's actually never met my kids. My oldest is 20, to kind of put in perspective the dynamic of his reality. You know, I learned a lot more about his upbringing from my mom, you know, as I got older and started to really appreciate the impact that he had, having an abusive, you know, alcoholic father. You know, I got to really understand the empathy around it. And I realized that my dad had never really been loved, so he didn't know how to love. My dad had never been shown compassion, so he didn't know how to show compassion. He'd never, you know, had a dad who was around, so he didn't know how to be around. And so, you know, I gained a lot of empathy for that. And, you know, I still reach out. I mean, I literally don't know if he's dead or alive. You know what I mean? I know that he reaches out to my brother every now and again. So, but I have a lot of love and I have a lot of empathy, because I realized that he did the best that he could with the tools that he had. And so it's something that, you know, I talk a lot about fatherhood because I have 5 kids and the whole thing now. And I realized, like, you know, my job and my mission, as my good friend Ed Milet talks about being the one, like breaking the chain. And so I realized, you know, I didn't have an example of how to be a father, so I've had to figure that out on my own. But I choose to be really the father to my children that I never had.
Yeah.
And so all the things that I wish I'd have had as a kid, I now, try and implement it in being a father. So it's, I'm very grateful. I don't have any regrets. I have zero regrets about anything in my life. I don't go back and go, man, I wish I would have had a dad around. I don't have any of that because,
well, that's why I'm asking you this, because it's obvious. It seems like you have mostly gratitude for those lessons, which tells me you've done the work, right? You're over it, which then makes 50% of marriages are ending in divorce right now, and it's a topic that's close to my heart. My mom and dad divorced before I was conscious, before I can remember. So I felt the pain of that myself, and there's a lot of people that ask about growing up in a fatherless home. And I mean this with all due respect, femininity will never bestow masculinity. And we have a generation of boys raised by women, and they're not learning, they're not getting that transition into manhood, like that rite of passage into manhood. And we see it in our culture, I think. I think there's been a big impact with that. You have a military vibe to you. Is anyone in your family in the military? Is that something you picked up later on?
No, I just, my dad was, my grandfather was in the Navy.
Okay.
My dad was in the Navy for a little bit. And I grew up, the only thing I ever wanted to be was a Navy SEAL growing up, but my parents split up. And so I didn't really have any masculine push as a teenager and as a young adult. And so I got married really young and kind of went down the marriage path. But I've always had that vibe. I don't have any regrets, but people ask me, if you could go back and do one thing over again, what would it be? And the only thing I can think of that I would do differently would be to serve in the military. Not because it's like some heroic badge of honor, but because there's a skill set that these men and women learn that I would have loved to learn, which is why now at 44 years old, most of my friends are special forces, SWAT, police, and I train vigorously and religiously with those guys because I want to know, guys who have had multiple deployments and seen the shit. I extract everything I can from them, and I train with them very regularly.
Yep. Yeah. Again, I can relate. I actually went through Double Pups, which was a Marine for kids, really, and all my family up until the last generation was in the military. I actually trained to go into the SEAL program, and over a girl, I didn't go in. And my two friends that I trained with, one became a Navy SEAL, was in Afghanistan painting caves, and the other one took the Kandahar airport in Afghanistan as a Marine. I was pissed because neither one of them told me they enlisted because they knew I'd be pissed, and it was before 9/11. And then they told me afterwards, and I tried to get in after the fact because I was going to be pissed if they went into the military and fucking got killed. They were into it because of me. Like, I got them both excited about going in the military, and they ended up going in, and I didn't. So. And
you bailed for a girl.
I bailed for a fucking girl. Yeah. Early life lesson.
Yeah.
My own work there. But so you were a Mormon missionary? I heard you caught that for 2 years on a mission. So was that 18 to 20 as typical?
No, I went when I was 20. So I was born and raised Catholic, Irish Catholic family. I was Catholic for 17 years. When my parents split up, my mom was Mormon, my dad was Catholic. So when we went with my mom, everybody around her was Mormon. So we joined, we were baptized. And then when I was 20, I just got tired of being a shithead doing nothing. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this God thing out.
Yeah.
And so I kind of got serious about the church and learning about God and chose to go on this Mormon mission from 20 to 22.
Where'd you go?
Montana. That's where I fell in love with the Western. That's where I fell in love with the city or with the country. I didn't even know where Montana was when they give you your call and your assignment. And I was like, where the fuck's Montana? And I found out. And I went from literally city boy. I'd never been around cows or anything. So I went from that to Eastern Montana, where everybody's a rancher and all you do is, calving and branding and shit like that. So I got, for lack of better words, I went balls deep right into the country life and truly fell in love with it. I said when I went, I was like, I'm never going to wear Wranglers. I'm never going to listen to country music, and I'll never own cowboy boots. And now I have more fucking cowboy boots than I know what to do with. I love, I've got custom made cowboy hats, and now I own a 500-acre ranch. So.
So 2 years, I tell you, the Mormon missionary process builds some savages. I know a lot of great business people and salespeople that came out of that. And one of my guys went through the same process, I think 18 to 20 though. And he was in, I believe El Salvador, somewhere in Central America. But he was saying that if you can convert a person a year, you were winning.
Oh man, look, my daughter's on a Mormon mission right now. And I got a lot of friends in the sales industry and stuff like that. I'm like, you can sell an iPhone, you can sell a car, you can sell insurance or whatever, but go try selling God. selling
Totally.
God's one of the toughest sales out there. So yeah, you go out when you're a young kid, you don't really have any life lesson. You've never been on your own before, you're leaving mom and dad. And it's like, yeah, go sell God. It's fucking brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm ecstatic that my daughter's out right now, doing her thing and on her mission. So we share a lot of stories. We get to talk once a week, and we're always sharing stories and stuff like that. So it's really cool.
That's so cool. Where'd she go?
She's somewhere in America.
Got it.
Yeah.
Understood. That's cool. Well, how does religion and God play a part in your life now? I catch your content. You certainly referenced Christ enough, and yet a few weeks ago you had I thought a great post where you were unpacking what God means to you and kind of your reverence there. And it seems like what I was inferring is you're less religious but deeply spiritual. And I hate using that expression, but it's like you have a relationship with God, but you're not necessarily into all the fanfare that comes with religion. But I'd love to hear that in your own words.
Yeah. No, I spent a majority of my life very religious. Grew up Catholic, altar boy, CCD, First Holy Communion, the entire deal. Joined the Mormon church, did the Mormon mission, was married in a Mormon temple, and was, in Mormon leadership positions for about 10 years. And after I went through my divorce, a lot of people leave religion and get angry, especially in the Mormon church. They find themselves in divorce or whatever, and they're like, fuck the church. And the church did. I was never that way. I think religion is brilliant for the people that need it. I think that whether you're Mormon, Catholic, Baptist, Protestant, I'm an anomaly. People can't understand me. They can't figure out how I say God and fuck in the same sentence. And they're like, that doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, yeah, but I just did, right? So for me, I found myself, when I went through my divorce, I realized that, Jesus went into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights. So the book says, right? And I started realizing that I had never actually built my own relationship with God. I had done what I was told to do. I followed the path of Christendom. I followed the path of Mormonism. I followed the Catholic Church, and I read the Bible front to back many times, Old Testament, New Testament. I read the Bhagavad Gita. I read the Book of Mormon. I read the Doctrine and Covenants. I've read parts of the Quran. And I realized that I had never actually gone into my own wilderness and figured out who God really was and built a relationship. Like the way that I have a relationship with a friend. I'd never done that. And so I spent a couple of years really trying to figure out, number one, who I was, and number two, who God was. And I decided I closed the books. I stopped listening to people, and I just started talking to God. And I started figuring out how to listen, and I started figuring out how to communicate with him. And I realized that, he's talking to me 24/7, but as the book says, I didn't have the eyes to see or the ears to hear because I was following this ritualistic programming. And not that that's wrong or bad, right? But I started realizing, modern religion is made of man. It's without question a business. I mean, the Mormon church is $1 trillion business. The Catholic Church is the largest landowner on the planet. There were literally trillions of dollars, right? And I sat back and I was just like, I built a real strong relationship with Christ. He's this figure in this book, right? Whether you believe in the Bible or don't, whether you believe in it or not, I look at it as cool. Here's this book, and here's this amazing guy that I read about and I'm building this relationship with. And I realized Jesus was a freak. If you really think about who he was a fucking weirdo. He's a dude who roamed around. He didn't have an apartment and a house, and he didn't have a car, and he didn't drive around and have a bunch of cool shit, a Rolex and whatever. He had nothing. And he just wandered from town to town, and he sat on rocks and talked to people and healed the blind and talked to the harlots and cured people and turned water into wine and one loaf into fishes. And it's just like, this dude is a fucking weirdo. If you saw him today sitting on a rock in a park, you would go the other way. If you really think about it, that's really who the guy was. He was a total weirdo. And what he was talking about had never been heard before. And so here's this dude who's sitting on these rocks, and these people are like, who the fuck is this guy? Some people are like, yeah, I like this. Some people are like, yo, all the wise, scholarly, religious men were like, oh, he's not, Sadducee, and he's full of shit. And all of a sudden I started realizing yeah, I kind of vibe with this guy. I kind of feel you know what I'm saying? I kind of feel like I do these, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, they were writing with feathers on scrolls and papyrus, and here I am writing on this iPhone. And they have their books that they make and hand out to people, and I have this platform that I speak to people. And it was I started really understanding that God gave me the megaphone that he did for a reason. And the messages don't necessarily make sense to a lot of people. And they question, well, the book says this. And I'm like, yeah, but I just talked to the man and he said this. So which is it?
Yes.
And I'm really, I have a very, very, very profound relationship with deity. I can't prove them to you. I can't prove, I don't even try anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, I realize, like, when I wake up every single morning, my prayers are simple. I used to, our Father who art in heaven, fuck all that stuff, man. Like, I walk out to my window and I look up literally to the heavens and I say, God, put the people in front of me that you need me to meet and put the words in my mouth that you need me to speak.
Yes.
Because I realize, like, he's in charge, man. Like, I've seen 3 babies come out of a woman's womb, and you can't convince me that happened by a bunch of rocks just colliding in space, right? How did it happen? I don't fucking know. I have no idea, right? And I don't even try and prove it to people. But man, I truly, truly, truly have a very, very, very distinct relationship with deity. I believe that I'm here for a purpose. You're here for a purpose. This conversation is not happening by accident. The things that are happening in life are not by accident. There's literally a lesson in every single thing. And as soon as we step back and get rid of this ego and start saying, all right, what's God trying to teach me? What's he trying to show me? My life sucks ass. I'm an addict. I'm fat as fuck. I don't know what it is. I'm broke. What is he trying to teach me? And all of a sudden you start connecting and you go, whoa, I'm going to stop listening to all you guys who have your own shit storms and your own shit sandwiches that you're trying to eat. And I'm going to just start talking to the man. When I was a missionary, I was like a weird missionary too, because we had all of our lessons and we would teach people and I'd say, look, here's this book, right? It's the Book of Mormon, right? I've read it. I've read the whole thing. Read it. Don't ask me and my companion what we believe. Don't go ask your pastor if this is right or wrong. Ask God. Like, just go talk to the fucking man. He'll tell you.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Well, my missionary companions would be like, well, Elder, we're supposed to say. I'm like, I don't care what we're supposed to say. Like, the relationship, it was God. Go to God. If you want to know about a Ferrari, don't go ask a Porsche guy. Go ask a Ferrari guy. You want to know about a Ford, don't ask a Chevy guy. You want to know about God? Go talk to the man.
I love what you're saying here. So much of religion is, and I talk about this a lot because it's a subject close to my heart. Most people know the book of the Lord. They don't know the Lord of the book.
Yeah.
Right.
Amen.
And if you're like, I spin like this, like if you were good friends with Michael Jordan, like Michael Jordan was literally your friend. Like you hung out, you played golf together, you fucked around together. And somebody came to you and they're like, did you know that Michael Jordan is 6'7" and he won 6 NBA championships? You're like, yeah, that's really cool. And then they'd start spouting their thoughts about who Michael Jordan was. And you're like, well, I'm his friend. Like, that sounds weird. Or like, no, that's not actually what he thinks. And you could tell immediately the difference between somebody who has studied God and somebody who knows God. It shows up completely different. And that's 2 John in the New Testament. That's the promise. Call to me and I will answer you. That's Jeremiah 33:3. But 2 John, it's like the Holy Spirit will lead you in all things. Just ask.
Yeah.
It's like, and that coming from the Catholic Church, no doubt, had an impact because so much of the Catholic Church was you talk to a priest, he talks to God.
Yeah.
Right. You're talking through someone. Organized religion, I think, arguably has been the most destructive force on earth.
Totally.
It also has carried some of the most important truths that humanity still benefits from today. So it's been a double-edged sword. But
man, there's more people that have died because of God and religion, and more people that have like found peace. Right? It's just it's a wild anomaly, and this is like part of where a lot of people get confused with me, because I'll quote the Book of Mormon because there's great stuff in there, and there's great stuff in the Doctrine and Covenants, which is another Mormon book. And I'll quote stuff out of the Bhagavad Gita or whatever, and people are like, "Oh, dude, the it's a cult," and I'm like, "Have you actually Googled the word cult?" Because literally the true definition of cult is following anyone or anything with zealotness. It's like, okay, so you're telling me your church is right, your God is the only God, well, then you're in a cult. Well, I'm in a cult. We're all in a cult. And there's just this really interesting like dogma that I see with religion and stuff today. And I mean, you know this. What's the single greatest emotion to sell something with? Fear. Yep.
Yeah.
Like fear. When we're little kids, if you do this, you're going to go to hell. Oh shit. Oh no. You know what I mean? The cop that you better buy these shoes. There's only 3 minutes and 47 seconds left, or it's going to go away. Fuck, I'm going to miss it. I got to buy it, right? Like one day only, sale, buy it now, do it now. It's just like, if you stop and think about it, like, it's just, I don't vibe with that anymore. And this is where when people are like trying to argue with me about the this guy's wrong or that guy's wrong or the Book of Mormon's wrong. I can prove this wrong. I can prove the Bible contradicts the Bible for hell's sake, right?
The divine dichotomy.
But it's just, I just tell people, I'm like, look, man, if you believe that a guy lived in the belly of a whale, or you believe that a dude opened up the ocean, and here's this guy named Joseph Smith in the Mormon church, I was like, yo, I just went out into the woods and I talked to God. And you're like, he's a freak. I'm like, you believe a book that a guy was fucking getting instructions from a bush that was on fire? How is this dude a freak and that dude's not a freak? Like, let's get serious for 2 seconds, friends. People like that, because they actually have to think. You know what I mean? But I love it, man. I'm very, very, very ecstatic about my relationship with God, and I truly believe that, like, you know, I have a calling here and a purpose here, and I'm grateful for that.
It's obvious. I love it. Yeah, I talk about this a lot in my own work. Is so many of the stupid decisions that people make come from fear, and fear is the biggest and easiest way to drive behavior in humanity. When you look throughout history, it's been very easy to manipulate people if you can make them afraid. And we just came through fucking COVID, and undoubtedly, I think you and I probably have a very similar view of COVID, but it was all about fear. If you can keep people afraid, you can easily manipulate them and they'll give up their rights. We're dealing with this again. If you've seen, whatever you think of TikTok, demonizing TikTok as a Chinese spy device, and then you see this bill that's about to get passed, or they're trying to fucking pass, and like, it has nothing to do with TikTok. We're giving up more of our fucking rights.
Yeah.
Right? And people will hook, line, and sinker go for it out of fear that China's the fucking enemy. Meanwhile, we're giving up our rights. Freedom for me is a huge deal. So anyway, go ahead. What are you gonna say?
100%. No, I'm with you. I was just going to say the whole TikTok thing is comical to me. I was listening to Dan Crenshaw the other day. God bless the man. He's there trying to persuade everybody. Well, they have all this information, and what happens if all of a sudden they decide that they have 500 million people and they want to start injecting these messages and persuading people? I'm like, Facebook's been doing that for 10 years. So is Instagram. So is fucking Google.
Yeah, like, we're okay with TikTok, it as long as it's an American company. Yeah, as long as it's an American company, it's fine. Just
oh my God. I'm like, yeah, you must not have any stock in that, do you, guy? Like, go get some stock and then you'll change your story, but whatever. I mean, dude, it's just this is the reason I've got, lions not sheep. That's where it came to me. It's just like, look, man, I realized most of my life I've been a sheep. I did what as I was told, and all of a sudden I stepped back a little bit and I started asking questions. I was like, whoa, wait a second. I don't know. No. And it's just like, to me, that's the ultimate level of freedom. Like that I talk about with lions not sheep is being able to like need nothing, like control your mind, have your own testimony of God, like go out into your own damn wilderness. Shut the books. Forget what everybody's told you. Forget what mom and dad say and your pastor says. Go out in the damn trees and talk to the man yourself, But
it's interesting and I want to get into lions, not sheep, because I think it's fucking awesome. But it's interesting you brought up 40 days in the wilderness with Christ. It's a teaching I use a lot because the test there was one of identity. Right. If you remember, he comes out of that 40 days later, and Satan goes, if you are truly the Son of God, make this, turn these stones into bread. If you were truly the Son of God, call down the angels to save your ass. And he's like,
oh, ye of little faith.
Yeah. And because he passed, if you will, passed the test because he knew who he was.
Right.
Everything is about identity. I'm writing a book right now. My first book out will be on identity, because this is the game. When you know who you are, you become unfuckable with. Yeah, the problem is most humans haven't figured out who they are yet. And it's very easy to manipulate people that don't have a fully baked identity. They haven't done the work yet. And that's, what you're talking about. Your transition was coming into your identity, figuring out who the fuck you are. Instead of playing in the world of the ideal, you started to own who you are and became more real. And so it sounded like, based on what you were saying, correct me if I'm wrong, it took a tumultuous season in your life in which you went through a divorce, which obviously divorce is one of the hardest things for men and women to go through, right? The breaking apart of those relationships. I don't know if you had kids before that, if your whole business was tied to that, but that's fucking pain. But so much of our best lessons come through those painful moments, right? It makes us go, wait, what the fuck? This math isn't adding up. What am I missing here?
Right. Well, that's what I tell people. I'm like, look, man, you're avoiding the single greatest thing that's teaching you, and it's pain, it's fear. You know what I mean? Like we're creatures that avoid at all costs anything that scares us or intimidates us or causes us to question. And so if you look at it, it's just that it sounds so funny, but like you hear people screaming, and I don't want to turn this political, but like screaming, Trump's a racist. And anybody who's screaming that, you say, well, tell me something racist he said. Fuck you. It's like, oh, Okay.
So that was terribly enlightening. Yes.
The Mormon church is a cult. Well, tell me why. Fuck you. It's like, oh, you don't know. Okay, got it. Like, so you don't have an answer. You're just regurgitating. And if you really peel back the layers of that, man, I don't think my mom and dad were bad or wrong. I don't think your mom and dad were better. They taught you everything they knew.
Correct.
And it's up to me and you to further that progression. It's up to me and you to ask questions. But here we are as grown adults, you know, not going, hey, you know what? I mean, all I did was Google and realized it took 20 years for polio vaccines and this vaccine and this thing. And y'all found a cure for this shit in 5 minutes. Like, and you're literally going to give me a cheeseburger to get a shot in my arm? I don't know about this. Hang on. But nobody did. Nobody questioned, which is why nobody questions God, religion, themselves, their financial literacy. Nobody questions like, hey, maybe me eating shit all day long is why I'm fat, not because of McDonald's, you know? Yes. And I this is something that I really encourage people, which is why I think a lot of people don't like me, is because I challenge people to think.
Yes.
I challenge people to like come up with their own answers. Like you're broke, not because somebody else is rich. You're broke because you're undisciplined. You're broke because you haven't studied. Like you can blame everybody all you want. Like I promise you, sir, ma'am, you're obese because you eat like shit and don't work out, not because there's saturated fat in the world.
Yes.
What else do you want me to tell you? You know, but I truly believe like one of the most audacious things that a human being will do is ask questions.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what I'm really trying to push people. And I feel like, you know, my friend said this to me a while ago and it stuck with me and it became really powerful for me. He's like, you're kind of like a light switch. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, remember when you were a kid, like, and it was winter time and mom would come in. I grew up in DC and it was cold as shit in the winter time. And, you know, it's 6 a.m. and mom's coming in to get you up for school and she'd flip the lights on and pull the covers off because I didn't like to get out. And you were like, oh, God, set the lights on. It's hurting my eyes and fucking freezing. Like, it's painful. It sucks. You don't want the lights on. It literally physically hurts your eyes. If you're in darkness and all of a sudden, bing, this light gets shined in your eyes, it hurts. But the reality is without it, you can't see. And so I was like, huh. And he's like, all you're doing is just flipping lights on in front of people. And they're like, oh shit, no, hey, no, I don't like that one, you know? But at the end of the day, like, isn't that what Christ did? Yes. Isn't that what, like, you know what I'm saying? The entire call is because without the light, you can't see anything. So in this age of darkness where people are just slumbering along, asleep and quiet and just, you know, cuddled up in their little bed of mediocrity, somebody comes along and flips this light switch on and it's like, oh shit, I don't like that. Turn it off. But the reality is like without it, you won't grow. There will be no progression in your life.
100%. I love this. That's, you know, so much of my work and my message and something I'm constantly teaching is to question everything.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't matter who is saying it. Question everything. Do the math for yourself. So a lot of my focus in my own teaching is not teaching people what to think, but how to think. Bingo. So that we can look at the world differently. Only free people can help other people get free. And we need free people right now. And the first thing you need to get free is your mind. Right. And truth doesn't need a defense. That's the beautiful thing. If you're speaking truth, it will defend itself. So I love it. Have you always been that way? I mean, it's just brash and direct?
No, I was a shy little kid. I was terrified of speaking. I was terrified of like standing up in front of the class. Like I did everything to avoid it. It wasn't until I got on my Mormon mission that I realized that I had like a leadership capacity. Like from the very first day I was called into a leadership position and they just basically pick all these new guys like, all right, you're here. But I started to really exude that and it's refined and refined and refined. And what's really cool in the Mormon church, they have what they would kind of be considered like maybe like a priest or a holy man or whatever. They're called patriarchs and they give you these blessings, right? And the patriarch's job is to give you, it's called your patriarchal blessing. And it's really cool. Like there's so many fucking amazing things with different churches and things and the way that they operate, you know, from a really spiritual place. And in that blessing, it talked about how like, I will continue to learn and use the English language to change the world. And it did make sense to me when I was 20 years old. I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Okay, whatever, guy. But now, like, fast forward 20 something years and I'm realizing, holy shit, like, you know, this is all prophecy that's coming to be where it's like, you know, people want you to fit into this box and this thing. And God's giving me, God gave me these viral posts. He made them go viral. Like oh, Sean, you got lucky. I'm like, well, I mean, a billion views later and literally hundreds of millions of people engaging.
I'm sure it's just luck.
It's not really luck anymore, friend. You know what I'm saying? But I realize that now more than ever, like, you know, it's scary. It still scares me. I still have reservations. I still have fears. I still will sit down and I'll be like, and I'll hit send and I'll be like, oh shit, that was a big one. You know what I mean? But it's like, when God speaks to me, man, I saw what happened when I didn't do what he told me to do.
Yeah.
I saw what happened when I used my ego, and I saw what happened when he would say this right now. And I'd be like, no, that's too much. Or I'll wait a couple of days till I calm down or whatever. And he's like, no, motherfucker, now. And so I just started listening more and more and more. And I realized, like, you know, how you do one thing is how you do anything. You start lifting more weights, you're going to get stronger. Right. And it's just, the more I do it, the more confident I feel in speaking. But no, I was not always like this.
The world is attracted to people who are authentic and speak their truth, even if they don't like it. And that's cool to be able to flex that muscle. I want to be sensitive to your time because I know you got a hard stop.
Yeah, we're good.
Tell me about Lions Not Sheep. This is a brand that is growing. I see it everywhere. You've really got a following, which is awesome. What's your heart behind that? What's your vision for you, where you want to take that?
Well, when I went where it came from after my divorce and bankruptcy, when I was 31, I basically burned my whole world to the ground. I don't know what a midlife crisis is, but if it means leaving your marriage, you know, there was no infidelity, there was no drug use, there was no anything. It's just my wife and I just basically grew apart, and we ended up divorcing and going our own separate ways, not knowing who we were, what we were doing. And it was a really, really, really dark period of time for me. I went from being a self-made multimillionaire to going bankrupt, to being, you know, 30 under 30, winning the awards, to being accused of being a fraud and all kinds of other shit. And it was in a really dark place. And as I started kind of trying to figure out how to rebuild, it came to me one day, and it popped into my brain, and I didn't read it anywhere or see it anywhere. And it wouldn't leave. And it was one of those things where it's like, it just kept showing up. And I wrote it on my bathroom mirror, and it was something that it became my own personal mantra for years before I ever even said it. Like, it wasn't a clothing company. It wasn't a coaching company. It wasn't a book. It wasn't a movement. It literally was my own personal mantra. And I realized it came to me because I lived most of my life as a sheep. I did what I was told. I said what I was supposed to say. I did it the way that everybody was telling me to do it, you know, whether it was religion or business. And I had no damn clue who I was. I had no idea who I was. I had no idea why I was here. And so I know that God, like, literally forced me into this place where I burned my everything to the ground, everything, my marriage, my businesses, my faith, everything. And I kind of, you know, came humbly naked with nothing, saying, okay, now what, you know? And when it came to me, I remember I called my friend and I said, hey man, I want to put this on a shirt. I didn't know I was doing real estate. I've done almost 4,000 transactions, like flips. I was a big real estate investor. And he's like, yeah, cool, man. Go to fonts.com and pick out a font and just tell me what you want it to look like. And I said, all right. And I went to fonts.com and I screwed around with a bunch. And I was like, all right, here's what I want it to look like. And it just had the Lions Not Sheep, and that was it. And so week goes by, he calls me and says my shirt's ready. And I go and I pick up my shirt, and it was like just one shirt. I didn't own lionsnotsheep.com. There was no trademark. There was nothing. And it just became like an outward expression for what I was feeling inside. It was almost like battle armor for me. And I put the shirt on, I would wear the shirt, and I'm like, okay, I got a choice right now. Am I being a lion or a sheep? Because lions do whatever the fuck they want. Lion wants to take a nap, he goes and lays under a tree, and nobody fucks with the lion. The lion wants to go eat, he goes and kills something and he eats. This is what a lion does. Nobody screws with the lions. And I realized that you know, this was something that was becoming more and more inside of me. And then I posted a picture on Facebook, and some dude's like, dude, that's a cool shirt. Where'd you get that? And I'm like, I made it. And he's like, well, can you sell me one? And I called my friend back. I was like, hey, some dude wants to buy a freaking shirt. I don't know anything about apparel. Like, he's like, we'll set up your shop inside of our Shopify. So people would literally go to my buddy's old website, frescopress.com, to go buy a Lions Not Sheep shirt. And it was just the one shirt. And it was like that way for years. And then as it started to grow and grow, I mean, more and more people were hitting me up going, hey man, you seem to have this game figured out. Like, you're on the comeback in life. And I'm like, bro, I'm just trying to figure this shit out on my own. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Can you coach me? I'm like, sure. Yeah, I'll spend an hour with you on the phone. And I would do that all day long with people. And finally I had one of my mentors. He's like, look, man, like, we don't build statues to the people that fell and never got back up. Like, we build statues to the people that got their asses back up and built a new life.
100%.
And he's like, what you're doing is literally showing people how to come back from hell.
You're giving them hope.
How to come back from burning it all down.
Yeah.
As you said earlier, 50% of marriages are ending in divorce. You're figuring out how to come out of divorce better, not an angry cuss like everybody else does.
Yeah.
You need to start sharing this. And so I was against coaching. I was like, fuck coaching, just call me, I'll talk to you. And so I kind of formed a coaching group. And then I bought the domain, and then we put the t-shirt on the website. And for 3 years, I mean, my mom would make our shirts. There's just a little heat press, and we'd sell 10 of them a month, kind of a thing, organically. And as things started to grow in 2020, I was like, you know what, I want to make this a thing, man. Like, God's like, yo, you got to push this out there. And so I decided to officially form the apparel company, and I hired some people and started running ads. And, we went from literally about $2,000 a month to within 6 months, we were doing $1 million a month in sales.
Fuck, that's incredible.
So it exploded. I mean, I've had major setbacks. I mean, last year we had a huge setback. Last year was not a great year. Like, I'm trying to figure this out literally as I go. That's what I tell people. Like, you guys looking to think like you said, you see it everywhere. I'm like, yeah, but I don't even feel like I'm anywhere yet. And I'm like, I'm just out here cutting my teeth, trying to figure out the game like everybody else is figuring out the game. But, I want Lions Not Sheep to become a household name. It's more than a t-shirt. It's more than a hat. It's a movement. It started inside of my heart and my soul. It didn't start as a t-shirt or a capitalistic opportunity. It started literally as my own personal 2.0 of life. And that's what I really feel passionate about is knowing that when people put the hat on or the shirt on, they feel like I did when I first did. It sounds cheesy to so many people. You don't feel that way with a Nike shirt or an Adidas shirt or a Stussy shirt. When you put Lions Not Sheep on, there's something where you're like, yeah, let's fucking go get this. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's go live our dreams. Like, let's go build. And to me, if the apparel becomes kind of the outward expression of our inward commitment and our inward devotion, then we're winning. And so for me, I have huge plans. I've not made any, I've not danced around the fact I want to turn this into $1 billion brand. I want this to be a household name. I see it on everything. I see it on apparel. I see it on gear. I want to do deals and do cars and trucks and razors and, guns and everything that I'm into. Like, I would love to take it and put it everywhere because it means so much to me. And seeing people around the world, I mean, man, I've been literally all over the world and bumped into people. I was in London and saw a dude wearing a shirt. It's wild. But the crazy thing is I truly don't feel like I've even started yet. We've really only been pushing the apparel for 2.5 years. So to me, I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing yet. You know what I'm saying? I'm still trying to learn. But I've got huge plans, and I'm immensely grateful for the tribe that we have, because it's a lot. Like I said, it's a lot more than apparel. It means something to people, and seeing kids and teenagers. I mean, I get hundreds of messages a day, literally between Facebook and Instagram. And when I get a message from a 17-year-old and he's like, dude, me and all my friends love your videos, I'm kind of like, yo, there's some of those you probably shouldn't watch. You're too young for this shit. That's a conversation you need to have with your mom and dad, right? But knowing that there's high school kids that have read my book, that wear the gear, they're like, dude, we rep your stuff every single day. Like, we all love it. We have stickers on our cars and Lions Not Sheep. And I'm like, damn, man, like, that's powerful. I didn't have that male figure when I was 17, 18, 16. And so I'm like, if somehow vicariously I can be that to somebody, or I can inject that mojo into these kids and into moms and dads and husbands and wives and marriages, then, I mean, dude, God bless.
I love it. I love it. What are you doing beyond the apparel? I mean, obviously it's a message, and it hits because it's clear what you mean. Lions Not Sheep. It's not up for interpretation, right? I love that. It's a powerful message. I love that you said it's a movement. That's really where you see it. What else are you doing to help people develop and grow into a lion, not a sheep?
I wrote my book. We're coming up on close to 1 million copies organically, which is really, really, really humbling. I do a lot of speaking. I've got my coaching group. We've got about 2,000 people around the world. I started that 9 years ago, which was literally my very first coaching deal. And I was like, my mentors kind of pushed me into it. But we looked at the numbers a little bit ago, and we've had almost 30,000 people that have joined that group over the last 9 years.
That's
which is
incredible.
just like, I mean, I know Tony Robbins puts 30,000 people into one arena, but for somebody who's like, just, I've never spent a dime marketing it. It's all organic. I literally use this cell phone and these platforms to have 30,000 people, just under 30,000 people have joined my group, consume the content, knowing the ripples. Like it's been cool. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm hanging onto a rocket most days and just trying to freaking keep it pointed straight. But yeah, we've got a lot of stuff planned, and I want to start working more with kids. My wife and I have been really, we came together at the time that we did for sure, for she and I to start talking about relationships and couples. We started a podcast, which is taken off. It's got millions of downloads, which is really cool. So, you know, I feel like right now for us, like, there's a lot of darkness. There's a lot of confusion. People are looking for leadership. They're looking for kind of the true north, you know, and I've never told anybody, hey, it's my way or the highway. I'm like, look, I'm a dude who's trying to figure this shit out like everybody else. Here's what I know works, and here's who I am. Take it, leave it, take things from me, put it into your own life, leave whatever you want. I don't really care. But I think that's one of the things that makes Lions Not Sheep and me specifically unique is I'm not like, you got to do my shit right now or you're all going to die. Like that fear. It's like, look, man, if you vibe with me, then join us. Like, there's my tribe. There's my people. Every week I go live. I teach you what I'm learning. I teach you what's working. You know what I mean? And to me, that's the true essence of leadership is going and picking up the machete and cutting a new trail. And so for me, it's like, if I can show people how to have a happy marriage and a booming business and be a present father and show people how to do it where people don't think it's possible, then that's as divine work as you can get, man.
100% agree. We're moved out of a season of bringing people to a building to represent God and bringing God to the people where they're at.
Amen.
Right. And that's a different connection and a different truth, I think, on many levels. So
yeah,
I love the
I heard a quote years ago that stuck with me that's really been powerful for me. And it says, live your life so that those who know you but don't know Christ want to know Christ because they know you.
100%.
So to me, it's like, that's my mission. That's my objective is to do that. You know what I mean? Hey, buddy, I'll call you back. I'm just doing a podcast. You good? I'm leaving my house in a little bit. Love you. Bye. I've said this before. People think I'm joking. I don't care who. I could be talking to the Pope. I could be talking to God. If my kids call, I pick up. Doesn't matter to me. That's how I operate.
I got an 11 and a 14-year-old. I get it on many levels. I get it. That's cool.
Yeah.
And Toby Mack said it the opposite way. The leading cause of atheism today is Christians who profess God with their mouths and deny them with their actions.
Some of them are just mean, man. They're just ruthless. I'm like, how do you think you're doing God's work when you're just slamming everybody all day long?
Right.
Just shoving shit down people's throat. It's like, that's not helping, man.
One of my organizing
principles. It also
principles
exposes that they don't know anything either.
Correct. So. That's exactly it. Organizing principle. Get advice from people who are where you want to be. Somebody's coming at me with their religion and I don't see love in their eyes. I don't see tolerance. I don't see understanding, real tolerance. I don't mean the fucking weird shit we're seeing going around in the world right now, but like where you're really listening and seeking to understand, like you don't know God. It's obvious to the degree in which you remember who you are by how you show up in the world. So
totally agree.
Word. I get it. A few rapid fire questions. I know you need to go. What book do you find yourself recommending more than any other? And it's fine if you want to plug your book here, but just what book do you?
As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, greatest book ever written. If I was stranded on a desert island, I would take his book over my book. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, best book ever written.
Well, that's a great one. I'm with you. What's the best purchase that you made under $100 in the last 6 months?
Flowers for my wife.
Good fucking answer. What's your next year look like? When you look at the next 12 months, where's your big focus? What's winning look like to you?
Good night. Just trying to make it to the end of the year. No, we're building our ranch out right now, which I'm super excited about. Like I'm headed up there tomorrow. I'm like trying to get all the snow out of there. We got a ton of snow, but I'm really passionate about my ranch. It's something that we have 500 acres. It's self-sustaining. We have our own water, our own power. There was literally nothing there. It was just a blank slate. So every single thing that's there came out of my mind, from where the roads are to where the gates are to where the house is to where the water's at, the whole thing. So that's something that I'm really passionate about right now.
Thick. That's going to be smart, I think, going into this next season.
Oh, dude, I've been telling people, like, You can keep buying stuff, but buy land. Even if there's nothing on it, go buy yourself a 5-acre, 10-acre, 20-acre chunk of land in the boondocks within an hour or two from your house. You won't regret it.
Where you have water rights and you're off the grid.
Yep.
I'm with you. Are you in Utah?
I'm in Utah.
Okay. And your ranch is in Utah?
Yeah, it's somewhere in Utah.
Yeah, I get you. I'm tracking. Awesome. Very, very cool. I think you're doing a great work, and the people that resonate with your shit, you can see that their life is changing, and you can see that energy on them. Lions, not sheep, right? And that's, to me, that's the work. And we all have an audience that resonates with us and reaches us. So keep being bold, keep fucking being you. Where could people find you? If people want to find out more about you, where's the best way to connect with you?
I'm not hard to find. Lions.sheep.com, SeanWhalen.com. I'm all over the World Wide Webs.
And just a quick plug, I'd love to hear, if you don't mind, just a few seconds. I was going to ask you about this, I forgot. Tell me about your platform. You started your own coaching platform, your own community platform. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So I started my coaching group 9 years ago on Facebook because it was free, and I had a private group that you couldn't see. And I sometimes share my political opinions, and normally it doesn't align with Facebook. And so they like to hit the pause button on me and cancel me. And so that happened probably a dozen times over the years. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to scale a business this way. And so a number of years ago, I started looking at different ideas and different things. And about 3 years ago, I contacted a buddy of mine and said, hey, man, I want to build my own platform. And I took 9 years of coaching and said, this is everything that I want. And it didn't exist. So I took the best of everything, from Instagram to Facebook to mapping to scoring to tracking. And we just actually soft launched, it's called Jadari, Jedari, and it's a white label platform. So I built it for myself. We spent a lot of money building it, but it's a standalone app. It's not connected to anybody else. It's our own programmers, our own things, which if you know anything about tech, it's wildly expensive and really freaking frustrating. Yes. But I built it for my Lion's Den. So I built it, selfishly to have my own group that was the best out there. And about halfway through the build, some people were like, hey man, you should white label this. And it is going like hotcakes. So if you're a community person, if you've got a tribe, if you're a coach, if you're a consultant, if you're a business owner, if you're a religious leader, if you have a tribe of people from 10 to 10,000, 50,000, we're talking to a couple organizations right now that have millions of people. Jadari is a phenomenal resource. So you can go to jadari.com, or, we're on Instagram and check it out. But I'm really happy about it. We just launched it in January. And so we have huge plans for that.
What's a few things that makes it stand out to you? I mean, you obviously built it with your community in mind.
Number one, you own it. So nobody can cancel you. Right. And that was something big for me, because I'm like, look, I had to water everything down to be on Facebook because I kept getting canceled. Right. So if I shared my political opinion about something, I got banned for 30 days because I was literally in a thread talking to guys about cigars, because I'm a big cigar guy. And somebody said, what do you think about Cubans? And I said, I don't like Cubans. And they banned me for 30 days and said it was hate speech. I'm like, we're talking about cigars. Like, I'm not saying I hate the island and the people. We're freaking talking about cigars. And that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. I'm like, you know what? Fuck you guys. Like, I'm gonna go do my own thing. But we have literally an identical match deal at Facebook. So we have our own wall, which is really cool for my tribe, because we get to share wins. We get to share where we are. We can ask questions. We have separate groups inside where some people join the Lion's Den or come to me for relationships, or they're lost, or they just think it's all about money. So we built all these pods inside of Jadari, where there's one group where we're constantly talking about money and business and deals. And there's people doing deals, me included, like with these 2,000 members. So, if you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, you literally have 2,000 people like in here that you're networking with, doing business with. We have a relationship group. I think the coolest feature, which some people like it, some people don't really care about it, is the map. And the reason that I wanted to build the map is because I travel a lot. And when I'm traveling, like normally what I would do is I would put in like, hey man, I'm going to be in Boston. Who's in Boston? You know what I mean? You throw that up on social media, and with the algorithms, maybe people see it, maybe people don't. You know what I'm saying? And so I built this feature with the maps. It's kind of hard to see, but like these are all the members of the Lion's Den. So if I'm going to, say, we got Mexico in here, we've got 13 countries, but I can just click on one in Bozeman, Montana, right? You can't really see it. Sorry. It kind of sucks, but Bozeman, Montana, there's 5 members. So I literally just click on it and it shows me all 5 of my members that are up here. So instead of being like, hey, I'm coming to Bozeman, who wants to, I'm just hit up Danielle, Kyle, Taylor, Wyatt, be like, yo, man, I'm coming to town. Let's go grab a coffee. So if you have a community, if you're like a church or an MLM or you know, a coach, and you're traveling a lot and you want to really, nothing will ever beat hand to hand, in my opinion. Like pressing the flesh, kissing and shaking babies that'll never go out of style. So for me, it's like, if I can create something that plugs real human beings together that are already in our tribe, and it's been, for our tribe, it's been huge, man. Because we have meetups all over the country all the time. So all these members now, as they travel, they just go straight to the app, to our maps, and see who's like along their road trip route. And they just get to meet all these people that they're virtually connected to, but now they get to like see them, and you're building real relationships, real friendships, which to me is very, very, very important, especially inside of tribe. So I think of all the features that we have, that's probably my favorite. And I get giddy looking at it because it doesn't exist anywhere else. Like nobody else has all of these features together. I mean, we can go live natively, where most people have a coaching group. So they'll host this part over here and then they use Zoom for their calls, right? Everything is inside of the Lion's Den. It's all recorded in here. Our library, we have thousands of trainings and videos all inside of this one portal. And I mean, dude, if you're a white label person and you want this technology, you can literally have it for a couple $100 a month, like literally buy dinner tonight, which is mind bending. You know what I mean? We spent almost $1 million, and 2 years, you can have it in a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's incredible. And does it function the same as a web and app? So
yep, we've got web and app.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's the other thing, getting deplatformed for anybody who wants to speak truth. You got to worry about that, right? You got to model. Yeah. I don't blame you, but
we got the same features like Facebook with our scrolling feature and posts and things like that. You know what I mean? But like, yeah, nobody can shut me down. It's my platform. It's your platform. We don't regulate it. We don't monitor it. You know, obviously, if there's anything that breaks the law, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, even still, like when you get your own white label deal, you know, it's yours. So that was really, really, really important to me, not being censored.
What does Jadari mean? It's got a name, right?
My partner came up with it, and it's had something to do with Armani and Atari. He had a vision one time about like the basics and this wealth thing, and he came up with Jadari. I was like, so as we were talking about names, he came up with that. I was like, yeah, that sounds fucking cool. We looked it up and found it, and somebody had it some weird way, but we could buy it for like $1,000 because I liked it, and it looks cool, and our logo looks cool. I mean, I'd never been in the tech space before, but now being in the tech space, I see what it is and how competitive it is, but I also see like how cool it is too. So it's
the opportunity.
We have huge plans for it. We want to build it up and put a lot of people on it, and then sell it.
Sick. I appreciate your time today, brother. It was great getting to know you. I'd love to continue this conversation.
Let's do it.
Have a fantastic day, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.